Hi, good evening all. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll start the class. Yes, here we go. Hi, Likit. Hi, Chetana. Hi, Sridevika. And one more guy. Wait. And Pratiksha. So yes, hi, good evening all. 40 students, 41 students are there. Where are the others? Usually by from last two classes, I used to get approximately 70 attendance. Yes. So let me launch a technical poll. Answer in the poll. Yeah, good evening, Anu. Answer in the poll. I'll be back in 30 seconds. Okay, just give me 30 seconds and answer in the poll. Oh, sorry. Answer in the poll whether I'm audible clearly and is the presentation visible clearly. And I don't know, something happened. I couldn't able to see the messages in YouTube from yesterday. Yes, Ashwin, good evening. Tejashwini, good evening. Okay, so I'm ending the poll. You all can hear me properly, right? So that's great. And yes, we are about to start our class, today's class. Yes. In the previous class, what are the things we have studied is that we have learned how the pollen grain is going to produce and how the egg is going to produce and how the pollen grain is going to reach the pistil. That's what we have studied till the end of the previous class, right? So in today's class, what are the things we are going to study is that pollen grain which is reached the stigma, how it is going to fertilize the egg, right? How it is going to fertilize the egg. That is the thing what we will study in today's class. That is very easy, and all the process comes under the name called fertilization. Okay, I'll show you the steps of the fertilization. I'll tell you the definition of fertilization and everything. Before that, I gave you a question yesterday and I wanted you guys to answer. So chasmogamous flowers require pollinating agents, that is aceration, and reason is that clistogamous flowers do not expose their sex organs. So what is the correct answer? If both the aceration and reason are true, and the reason explains correctly for the aceration, or if the both the reason and sorry aceration and reason are true, but the reason is not correctly explanation, or I mean, is not the correct explanation of the aspiration. And option C, if the both, sorry, if the aspiration is true and the reason is false. If both the aspiration and reason are false, that is option D. So, which you are going to choose? No, likit, no. Hopefully, I may get 100%. No. I don't get 100% of answers, I am sure. Yes, Anu correct. So yes, the people from YouTube, you can also answer only. Anu has answered. There is Ashwin, Gopika, and most of the people. You got 15 seconds to answer. Okay, last 5 seconds more. 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, time up. Here are the results. 14% of the people have chosen option A, and 62% of the people have chosen option B, 10% of the people have chosen option C, and 14% of the people have chosen option D. Okay, and I'm stop sharing the results. See, I ask you assertion and I will read the assertion. Just tell me whether it is a true or false. Okay, chasmogamous flowers require pollinating agents. Is it true or false? Answer in the chat box. Okay, very good. This is true, right? Which means assertion is correct or assertion is true. That's why you cannot choose the option D, because option D is saying that assertion and reason both are false. But for now we know assertion is correct. That's why option D we are going to cancel. And reason is that clistogamous flowers do not expose their sex organs. Is it true or false? Yes, this is also true, obviously. So that is why you cannot choose option C, because option C is saying that assertion is true but the reason is false. So option C and option D are eliminated. What I told you, first you need to see whether the assertion and reason are true or false. You are saying that both are true. So if both are true, whether the reason is the correct explanation for the assertion. So because the clistogamous flowers do not expose their sex organs, that is why chasmogamous flowers require pollinating agent. Is that true? No, right, Sonia? So yes, that is not the exact reason. I mean, the reason is not explaining correctly. Yes, both the assertion and reason are correct, but the reason is not explaining the assertion. Okay, this is what the answer. But I have expected 100% of answers. I didn't get. It's okay. See, the second question, a dioecious flowering plant prevents both. So before going to the options, I would like to ask you a question that what is a dioecious flowering plant? What is dioecious flowering plant? Let's see who will answer. Hita correct. Oh, Tejashri correct. No. Bhumika was mistaken. Sridevika correct. No. Having only one sex organ in a flower. No. That is unisexual flower. Okay, if you consider a complete plant, yes, Tanuja correct. If you consider a complete plant, that plant contains only the flowers and those flowers contains only a one sex organ, which means the entire plant contains only one sex organ, so that if you want to take a two sex organs or if you want to examine the two sex organs, you need to examine the two plants. So which means two sex organs are present in a two different plants, two sex organs in a two different plants. That is why dioecious, right? Which means unisexual plant. One plant contains a one sex organ, two sex organs present in a two individual plants. So in the dioecious plants, which means each plant containing only one sex organ, that prevents what? Which kind of pollination? Autogamy, xenogamy, autogamy, geitonogamy, xenogamy, clistogamy, and xenogamy, which is the correct option. Answer here. Yes. Yes, Monisha, Ligita, Tejaswini, most of you are giving correct answers. Very good. Rushita, Swati. Yes. I'm calling your names because the correct answers. If they are wrong, I would have to tell you already. So yes, the people, Anu, yes, Anu, correct. From the YouTube only Anu is saying, Ashwin, no, Ashwin. Yes, Ashwin, now you are correct. Sridevika, no. Last 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Yes, time up. So try to answer the questions within a 1 minute, just because you will get only 1 minute for each questions. In the NEET, okay, especially in the NEET, what is going to happen? Uh, for every question, even for the physics, even for the biology, even for the chemistry, you will get the time approximate. I mean, normally, if there are 10 questions, you will get the 10 minutes. Or if there are, so how many questions are there, those many minutes you will get. So, but biology, for biology 1 minute is more than enough, right? For biology 1 minute is more than enough to answer for each and every single question. But if we come to the chemistry and physics, 1 minute is not enough for most of the questions. So what you can do while answering in the biology questions only, just try to answer quickly, because so that you can for 4 to 5 questions you can at least save a 1 or 2 minutes in a 4 to 5 questions, right? So if you save the time, that time may be utilized for the extra additional work, if you require for the chemistry and physics, you can do that. So if you just late answering in the biology itself, how can you do in a physics and chemistry, right? So okay, no Arsha. See, results are like this. 17% of the people have chosen option A, 62% of the people have chosen option B, 21% of the people have chosen option C, and nobody have chosen option D. And then stop sharing the results. See, dioecious flowering plants, which means the plant is having only one sex organ. If the plant is having only one sex organ, means self-fertilization, sorry, self-pollination will not take place, which means autogamy will not take place. And one more thing, geitonogamy will also not take place, because geitonogamy means there is a pollination between the two different flowers of the same plant. But here the plant is going to produce a one type of flower itself. So geitonogamy is also not possible, right? So option 2 or option B is correct. Understand? A dioecious flowering plant prevents both autogamy and geitonogamy. And yes, most of you told me the correct answer. Very good. And the third question here is, attractants and rewards are required for anemophily, entomophily, hydrophily, clistogamy. So attractants in the flower for what? Anemophily, entomophily, hydrophily, clistogamy. This is easy. This is very easy. Okay, I'm not. I'm expecting 100% answers. Yes, in the chat box I'll get 100% answers, and I don't know why in the poll I don't get. See, I told you, right? In the poll I don't get. So far I was having 100%, but it's already to 80. Oh yes, Ashwin, Anu, correct. Gopika, yes, correct. Yeah. Let me end the poll. Sachin, yes, I'm doing that. I forgot. Yes. So results are like this. 13% of the people have chosen option A. 70% of the people have chosen option B. I told you, right? I can't get 100% of voting, I know. 3% of the people have chosen option C, 13% of the people have chosen option D. Okay, C. Attractants and rewards are required for. So anemophily is the wind pollination. So if the plant wants to pollinate by the wind, then the plant need not to attract anything, right? Because uh, the pollination is taking place by the abiotic agent. That's why anemophily is not required attractant. Even hydrophily is also abiotic agent, and clistogam is a type of flower. You cannot consider that for the this what I can say pollination. And clistogamy you cannot consider because clistogamy always encourage the self pollination. So self pollination, self pollinating flowers does not contain brightly colored petals or does not contain any attractants. Only the flowers which depends on the biotic agents, they do have the attractants and rewards. So one of the biotic agents, I mean one of the pollination or one of the zoophilus is that entomophily, where the pollination which is takes place by the insects. So what we are going to study in today's class is that pollen pistil interaction, sorry, fertilization. Finally, first we are going to study the fertilization. See here, if this is the stigma and the stigma, style and the ovary, right? Now the pollen grain, after pollination, the pollen grain come and sits over here, right? This is a pollen grain and this is a complete pistil. This is what? Pistil. Right. So the pollen grain which contains the male gamete, and in the pistil the ovary which is having, right, ovule, and inside the ovule there is a embryo sac, and inside the embryo sac female gamete is there. Right. Now the pollen grain should transfer the male gamete till the female gamete, till the ovule, till the ovary. So how it is going to transfer, or how that male gamete come and reach to the female gamete, and how they are going to fertilize, that is what comes under the fertilization. So if we want to write the definition for the fertilization, fertilization is the fusion of male and female gametes. This you can also call as a syngamy. Right, syngamy or fusion of male and female gamete is called as fertilization. That is very simple. But understanding the process is not that much simple as a definition. Understanding the process is not that much simple, okay? We'll see how it is going to happen, how it is going to programming. No, I guess Tejashwini, I'll tell you, okay? Right, a fertilization means fusion of male and female gametes. So how the male and female gamete is going to be fused? First, the pollen grain, which is at the top, which is at the stigma, right? From the stigma, the pollen grain has to send the gamete, male gamete, towards the embryo sac. How it is going to happen? These are all the steps. First, pollen pistil interaction will take place, which means pollen and pistil, they both interact each other, and they found that if both are compatible enough, then only they proceed, otherwise they don't proceed. That is what called pollen pistil interaction. Once the pollen grain is compatible for the fertilization, then what happens? The stigma is going to produce, is going to release some secretions, right? By using that secretion, by using the secretion which is produced by the stigma, the pollen grains start to germinate, okay? And that germinated pollen grain, the germination is called as the pollen tube. That pollen tube will move all along the style, okay? So if the pollen tube has germinated, means that pollen tube will move all along the style, and after that, that is called as a growth of pollen tube. After that, this pollen tube is going to 1 minute. Yeah. After that, this pollen tube is going to enter into the ovule. Okay, this is going to enter into the ovule. After entering into the ovule, this has to reach the embryo sac, right? Okay. So this is going to reach the embryo sac pollen tube, and along with that pollen tube, the pollen grain will send the nucleus, or the pollen grain is going to send the male gametes. And those male gametes, 1 minute, Likit. Those male gametes are going to fuse with the egg and something that is what called fertilization and the triple fusion. So this is what the exact process we'll see one by one. So will only one pollen tube is go? No. There are some names. Okay, monosiphonous, polysiphonous. I'll tell you. We are going to see one by one. Then you will get some names. There you will understand. Okay, this is a overview. Do you guys understand? This is all the things what we are going to study in today's class. Pollen pistil interaction, stigma release secretion, germination of pollen grain, and the growth of pollen tube, entry of that pollen tube into the ovule after reaching the ovary, that is going to enter into the ovule. After entering into the ovule, it is going to enter into the embryo sac, and after that fertilization and triple fusion will take place. So yes or no, do you understand the overview? I don't want you guys to remember the names for now. Just you should know what is the process, what is the overview. Do you guys understand? Yes or no, quickly. Sleeping at the evening, wake up. Yes, okay. Now, I'll tell you, I'm going to take you over the one after the one, okay, one after the other. So first we'll see pollen pistil interaction. What is going to happen in the pollen pistil interaction? So this is very easy, not very much complicated, I guess. First, what is this? It is a process in which pistil recognizes compatible or incompatible pollen through the chemical components produced by them, right? So first, once the pollen grain come and sits, or see, this is the pistil. Okay, on the pistil, the pollen grain come and sits. Okay, now this pistil is going to recognize the pollen grain, and it is going to see whether the pollen grain is compatible or not. Whether it is a compatible for a fertilization or not. First, the pollen grain, first the pistil is going to see. Okay, after that, if the pollen is compatible, or if the pollen is able to fertilize, or if the pollen is a right type 1, then the pistil is going to accept that and promotes the post pollination events. So if that is a compatible one, or if that is a right one, then that is going to accept, and after accepting, all the processes will going to start. So this is what the pollen pistil interaction. Is that clear? This is very clear, right? Pollen comes and sits on the pistil, and the pistil is going to see whether the pollen grain is compatible or not by releasing the chemical components. And if that is a compatible, then the pistil is going to accept that. This is what the pollen pistil interaction. Understood? Yes, no, quickly. Click on yes or no. Yes. Okay. See, after this, what is going to happen? After this, stigma releases the secretion. See. So, this stigma is going to release the secretion, and that secretion is going to have water plus sugar. Yes, water and sugar are going to released by the stigma. Once the stigma accepts the pollen grain, that stigma is going to secrete the water along with the sugar. Okay, so what is the use of this secretion? This promotes or initiates the pollen germination. Pollen germination. Okay, see how it is going to initiate. If this is a pollen grain, and which is an intine, okay, and this is a generative cell and this is a vegetative cell, and on the top of intine you can see the exine. What are those pores, or what are those spaces or gaps between the exine patches? Can anyone say? Yes, those are the germ pores, right? And I told you already, see, this is the pistil. Okay, and this pistil is going to produce some secretions. This pistil is going to produce some secretions like this, which are having water along with the sugar. Right. So this is the secretion produced by the, oh yes, Anu, correct. Now what happens? By using this secretion, the pollen grain, I mean the intake, will emerges out, or that is going to bulge out. Okay, that is what called germination of the pollen grain. Understood? So stigma releases the secretion and that secretion initiates the pollen germination. Understood? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, 1 minute. Okay. So this is what secretion. Next comes what? Pollen germination and the formation of pollen tube, or pollen tube growth. Okay. See, if this is 1 minute. Okay. This is what? The pistil. Sorry, this is not a pistil. This is a stigma. And this is a style. We'll study about the ovary later. Okay. And on the top of this, there is a, yes, there is what? Pollen grain. And this pollen grain is going to produce the pollen tube, right? This is going to produce the pollen tube. And about the pollen germination, I would like to tell you, some pollen grains will produce only one pollen tube, or some pollen grains will germinate only one pollen tube. That is called monosiphonous. Monosiphonous. That is what called monosiphonous, which means one pollen tube germinates. One pollen tube. That is what? Monosiphonous. And there are some which produces more than one pollen tubes. Those are called as polysiphonous. Polysiphonous, which means many pollen tubes. Right, which means Okay. So this is about germination. Once the germination starts, what is going to happen? The pollen tube will grow into all along the style. Then it reaches the ovary. Okay. So once it comes and it reaches the ovary. Yes, guys. I shared you the modules. Did you gone through it? I shared you most probably 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Have you ever checked that? Have you checked or not? Send once again. Why? You didn't see that, right? Yes, I have already shared you the module. Uh, okay. Whoever want me to send again, you can personally ask me. I'll send you because the people will get confused if I send again and again. No, they have to download all the things again and again. Okay. See, this is what the germination and the pollen tube growth. Along with the germination, the pollen tube will grow, and next what is going to happen? Right, the germ cell, right? Vegetative cell and germinal cell, two cells are there, right? So that germinal cell, the nucleus of the germinal cell, let me write germinal cell nucleus, germinal cell nucleus divides mitotically, divides mitotically. So there is only a one nucleus. After division there are two germinal nucleus, right? And those two germinal nucleus come along with the pollen tube, and these two acts as the male gametes, male gametes. Okay, two male gametes are there, and the vegetative cell nucleus and the cytoplasm, everything will also come. This is a nucleus of vegetative cell and all the cytoplasmic materials, they'll all come all along with the pollen tube. Yes, understood this, how the germination will take place and how the pollen tube formation of the, or how the pollen tube growth will take place. Understood? Yes, this is easy, right? So far what we have studied is that how the pollen pistil interaction is going to take place, and how the stigma releases the secretion and what that secretion causes. After the secretion, the pollen germination will take place. Okay, if there is only one pollen tube forms, that is called monosiphonous. If more than one pollen tubes are formed, that is called polysiphonous. So whatever may be the number of pollen tube, only one pollen tube is going to enter into it. Or yes, in some cases there are many pollen tubes are going to enter, but only one pollen tube is going to reach the one ovule. One ovule is going to get only two male gametes. Okay, and here one more thing is that in this there are chances of moving back. The male gametes can move back, right? If there are, see, in some cases this complete style is having cells all over it. In some cases the style is having cells only here, the style is having cells only here in some cases, which means only at the borders. But in some cases the style is having cells all over without any halo condition. Here also you can see the cells, but at that time what happens, there are chances of pressing the pollen tube, right? So if the cells of the style press the pollen tube, there are chances of moving back of the male gamete. So to avoid that, the pollen tube is going to form the barriers. The pollen tube is going to form the barriers, and those barriers are called as callose plugs. Those carriers are called as callose plug. And if these two gametes are moved down till still down, and then again one more callus plug will form, and if they move bit more down, then one more callus plug will form. Okay, those callus plugs will avoid the backward movement of the gametes. Understand, this is what the pollen germination and the growth of pollen tube, right? Okay, understood. Go to the participants and click on yes quickly if you understand. Yes, the people from YouTube, did you guys understand? Germinal cell, when it will divide. Okay, Sachin, the germinal cell is going to divide soon after the formation of the pollen tube. Okay. Yes, you can unclick now. Now we are going to see the entry of the pollen tube into the ovule. See, so far we have seen how the pollen tube is going to enter throughout the style, and now it reaches the let me draw this. If this is an ovary, now it reaches the ovary, and inside the ovary there is an ovule. Yes, this ovule is having integuments and the embryo sac. Right, this is what the ovule structure. Now this pollen tube has to reach the ovule, or it has to go inside the ovule. It has to enter the ovule. How it is going to enter the ovule, that we will see. There are chances of entry of the ovule through chalazal end, through the chalaza. If the entry has taken place through the chalaza, that is what called chalazogamy. If the entry of a pollen tube into the ovule has taken place through integuments, that is what called mesogamy. And if the pollen tube enters into the ovule through micropyle, that is what called porogamy. Understood? And porogamy is the most common type. Porogamy is a most common type. See, this is a pollen tube which enters through the micropylar region, and in this you can also see the two male gametes and callus plugs in between. See here, like this callus plugs will form. Understand? Yes, first is that pollen pistil interaction will take place, and after that what is that? I'm not asking question, Abhishek. First, pollen pistil interaction will take place. After that, the stamen is going to release some secretion, and that secretion leads to the pollen germination. That germinated pollen grain will produces the pollen tube, and that pollen tube will enter into the ovule. That is going to enter into the ovule by the three ways, either by chalazogamy or by mesogamy or by porogamy, but mostly it is going to enter by porogamy. Understood? Now after entering into the ovule, it has to enter into the embryo sac, isn't it? Yes. So how it is going to enter into the embryo sac? Once it reaches the ovule, then there is a embryo sac. This embryo sac is having 3 antipodal cells, 2 polar nuclei, and 3 egg apparatus, which means 2 are synergids, 1 is the egg. Right. So now the pollen tube has to reach till here, so that the egg and the male gamete are going to be fused. So how it is going to happen? See, let me just enlarge the diagram and let me show you this. Okay, this is what. Yes. So this is the egg. This is what? Egg. And these two are the synergids, right? So once the pollen tube has reached the ovule, then the synergids will do what? The synergids are going to have the finger-like projections here. The synergids are going to have finger-like projections called what? Can anyone tell me? The finger-like projections which are present in the uh, synergids called as what? These are synergids. Yes, Deepika, very good. So these finger-like projections or finger-like structures are called as, yes, Monisha, correct. Filiform, not the foliform, okay? Filiform apparatus. Right. So what these filiform apparatus will do? The filiform apparatus will guide the pollen tube. Filiform apparatus will guide the pollen tube. If the pollen tube comes near the embryo sac, these filiform apparatus take a lead and they are going to guide that to enter into the embryo sac. After that, what is going to happen? That is a fertilization. I will explain you that. So, is that clear? Yes or no? Entry of pollen tube into the ovule, and inside the ovule there is an embryo sac. Once they enter into the ovule, then they are going to enter into the embryo sac at the micropylar end, that is through the filiform apparatus. Yes, I hope everything is clear. Yes or no? No, 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 you are not replying. Why? I told you to wake up, not to sleep. Okay, let me just wait. Yes, from one, that is yes from Soumya. What about others? So do one thing, okay? Everybody go to the participants and click on yes. Don't unclick till I say. Everyone go to the participants and click on yes. Don't unclick till I say. Let's see how many people are active in the class. Everyone go to the participants and click on yes. And I'll read out the names who didn't click on yes. If you're not able to click there, you can at least say in the chat box. If you're not able to click on yes or no, you can say in the chat box that you cannot, you are not able to do that. That's it. 28 people. Now we'll see. Bhagya, ma'am, I can't. Kavya, okay. Kavya, you can't, okay. Bhagya, where are you? Abhishek, Amit, Anupallavi, even Sanika, okay. Chandana, Jagan, where are you, Jagan? Vishal, that option is not there, ma'am, in the participants. Okay, where it is then? So wherever it may be, just click on yes. That's what I want. In the reactions, it is okay. Go to the reactions and click on yes. Vishal, okay. Kavya, you told me that already. Likhita, Mallikarjun, Moksha, Nandan, Ruchita. Yes, okay. You just messaged me here, okay. Sanika, okay, you also told me. Sinchana, Somninga, Saujanya. Okay, Saujanya KS, okay, you have messaged me. Shrusti, H from Mysore. And Swati, oh. Okay, you can unclick. I got to know only approximately 40 students are active in the class. Right. So this is all about entry of pollen tube into the ovule and the entry of pollen tube into the embryo sac. Okay. Now we are going to study about the fertilization. So fertilization means what? What is the definition for fertilization? Just let me know in the chat box. What is the definition for fertilization? I want you guys to be very active and very quick. I don't want you to sleep in the class. So yes, the people from YouTube, you also say the answer. Yes, Somninga, very good. Soumya, yes, very good. Bhagya, Anuradha, Harsha, yes. Chetana Chandan, okay. You always need some push to answer. Or you always need some initiation, right? You can't answer for yourself. Why? Yes, Nandana, Sanika, very good. Which means fertilization is a fusion of male and female gamete, right? Fusion of male and female gametes. Female gametes. So what are those? Yes, that is a syngamy, correct, Jen. Gametes. So what do you mean by this? How the male and female gametes are going to be fused? So let me draw this again. So this is what the embryo sac having antipodal cells, polar nuclei, and this is the egg. Right, this is how the egg is present somewhat. So once the pollen tube, yes, very good, Kavya. Once the pollen tube has reached here, what? These filiform apparatus that guide the pollen tube, right? And the pollen tube will enter into the embryo sac. And once it enter into the embryo sac, it is going to release two male gametes. Right, two male gametes which are formed by the germ cell. The germ cell is going to divide into two and those two act as a two male gametes. Right, among these two male gametes, the first male gamete or one male gamete fuses with what? Fuses with egg cell. One male gamete fuses with the egg cell to form the zygote. Here, the male gamete is a haploid one and the egg cell is a haploid. So finally, we are going to get the zygote, which is a diploid. Right? Understood? Male gamete is a haploid. Egg cell, that is a female gamete, is a haploid. They both fuse together and gives you a diploid zygote. Okay, so this is what the fate of one male gamete. And we have left with another male gamete, right? So let me just mark this and this. Whatever, in both, whatever may be the male gamete. So one male gamete fuses with the egg and we are going to left with another male gamete. So what is going to happen to that? See here, and one more thing. Soon after entry of pollen tube, what is going to happen? Synergids starts to degenerate. Okay, so now synergids are degenerated and there is only egg which is having two nucleus. One is the male nucleus and another one is a female. Okay, let me just draw with the another color. Right. One is a male gamete and another one is a male nucleus and another one is a female nucleus. And we are left with a one more male nucleus, right? And what is the fate of this male nucleus? Let us write all the remaining cells and nucleus of the, yes. So this another male gamete or the second male gamete. Why synergids degenerate? Because the function of synergids is to guide the pollen tube. They have guided the pollen tube, they just degenerate. That's it, Soumya. Right, now the second male gamete or one of the male gametes or another male gamete fuses with polar nuclei. With polar nuclei. See, these polar nuclei, how many nuclei are there? Two nuclei are there. Which means totally how many nucleuses are fusing here? How many nuclei are fusing here? Tell me how many nuclei are fusing here? Yes. 3 nuclei are fusing. That is why we are going to say that as the triple fusion. And the male gamete, which is a haploid, and polar nuclei having two nucleus with the two sets of chromosome, right? One nucleus having one set of chromosome, another nuclei is having another set of chromosome. So polar nuclei is having two sets of chromosome, that is 2n. By fusing, they are going to give you a pen, which is triploid. The full form of a pen is that primary endosperm nuclei, or yes, primary endosperm nuclei. Understand how the triple fusion is going to take place? Triple fusion means fusion of 3 gametes. Sorry, fusion of 3 nuclei. 2 polar nuclei and one is a male gamete. This is what called the triple fusion, and that results into the primary endosperm nucleus. Right. One male gamete has fertilized with the egg and another male gamete has fertilized with the polar nuclei. So, can I call this as a double fertilization? Yes or no? Can I call this as a double fertilization? Yes, right. So, triple fusion is just the fusion of male gamete along with the polar nuclei. That is a triple fusion. If you are asked a question that write the double fertilization, you have to write the fertilization where the one male gamete is going to fuse with the egg cell and forms a zygote, and another male gamete is going to fuse with the polar nuclei to form a pen. This is what the double fertilization, which means you have to write the fate of 2 male gametes. That is double fertilization. Triple fusion means what? You have to write the fusion of 3 nuclei. That's it. Okay, this is about a complete process of fertilization. After this, how the zygote is going to be formed, what is the fate of zygote, how the pen is going to convert as another structure. That is all comes under the post-fertilization events. Right. So far what we have studied is, give me a minute. What about a vegetative cell and pollen grain? Okay. Deepika, I'll come to that. So far we have studied about pollen pistil interaction, and stigma releases the secretion, and then germination and growth of pollen tube, and entry of pollen tube into the ovule, entry of pollen tube into the embryo sac, and then fertilization, and then triple fusion. Okay, so along with the pollen tube, we know that the generative cell gives a 2 male gametes. Those 2 male gametes fate we already studied. But what is the fate of that vegetative cell or the nucleus of that vegetative cell? Okay, that will come along with the pollen tube. That will just encourage the male gametes to move. That's it. That will just encourage the male gametes to move in, and all the cytoplasmic materials also come along with the pollen tube only. Okay, the remaining pollen grain part will just go off. Will just went off. That's it. Deepika. Do you got any doubts here? Anyone got any doubt? No? Yes or no? Do you have any doubts? Okay, let us see some images. Okay, in this image, you can see in the first image the pollen tube. You can see many pollen grains have been germinated, right? But only one pollen tube has reached till the ovule, till the embryo sac, right? After reaching the embryo sac, in the second image, you can observe. Yes, give me a minute. See, here you can observe the pollen tube which is carrying the two male gametes along with the vegetative cell. 1 minute, Monisha. Along with the vegetative nucleus, right? So these two male gametes are going to be guided by the filiform apparatus. So one male gamete is going to fuse with the egg and another male gamete will be as it is. After that, what is going to happen? This male gamete is going to fuse with the polar nuclei, right? And then these synergids are going to be degenerate. Ma'am, actually vegetative cell will help in a germination pollen tube. Yes, that is what I'm saying, Monisha. Vegetative cell contains a more amount of cytoplasm, right? That cytoplasm is actually going to helpful for the germination and growth of pollen tube. Okay. Yes, here you can see the process very carefully. The first is that pollen grain, and that is going to sit on the stigma, and pollen pistil interaction takes place. After that, that is going to secrete some secretion, releases some secretion that allows the pollen germination and pollen tube growth. And along with the pollen tube here, you can see two sperms, or you can also say male gamete, right? Two sperms or the male gametes are going to be move all along the pollen tube, and then it is going to reach the ovule by many forms, right? It may reach the ovule by chalazal end or by the integument or through the micropyle. After reaching here, then the male gametes, after that, it is going to reach the embryo sac. Here you can see it is going to reach the embryo sac. The middle one is an egg, and these two are the synergids. And synergids allow this to release the male gametes. One male gamete is going to fuse with the egg, and another male gamete is going to fuse with the polar nuclei. The male gamete which is fused with the egg, and that results into what? Zygote. And another male gamete which is fused with the polar nuclei, that results into the pen. Okay. See, observe the image carefully. I'm going to give you 5 minutes time. Just go through all the process, and if you got any doubts, just ask me. You can ask me if you have any doubts. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Okay, ask me the doubts if you have. So you guys have no doubt. The function of synergids is that to just guide only. Exactly in the synergids there are filiforms, right? Filiform cells. Sorry, filiform apparatus. Those filiform apparatus are actually going to, what I can say, yes, guide the pollen tube. Pollination comes under a pre-fertilization. Pollination comes under a pre-fertilization. What are the things we are studying in today's class? That those are all the things comes under a fertilization. Uh, in the triple fusion, number of chromosomes will be more than. Yes, 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 yes. See, if the number of chromosomes are say 6, okay, if there is a n having number of chromosomes 6, right, zygote which is a 2n, right, having number of chromosome 12, and pen having the number of chromosome 18. Understand, Soumya? Yes, any doubt still? So yes, you have another 3 minutes to read the concept clearly. And tomorrow you guys are having a test, no? Biology test. Yes. Still any doubts? Hmm. Surabhi, that comes artificial hybridization. There is a topic called artificial hybridization. If time persists, I would have do that today. But if I start, we cannot complete that. That's why from Tuesday, Ghazala ma'am will hand over your batch. No, she'll take care. Okay. Let us, if you on understand completely, let me take a question. Filiform apparatus is a characteristic feature of generative cell, nuclear embryo, alluron cell, synergies. Yes. Answer for this in the poll. Answer in the poll. Yes. Ah, yes, Jivan, I'm doing that right every day. I just skip one day. No, Hita, no. So, yes, I want everybody to answer in the poll. I'm just waiting for your answers. Yes, Hita, now you're correct. Okay, I'm ending the poll, and the results are like this. 3% of the people have chosen option A, 19% of the people have chosen option B, 6% of the people have chosen option C, and 72% of the people have chosen option D. And stop sharing. Yes. A filiform apparatus you can see in the synergids, right? Correct option is option D or option 4. Generative cell, no. Nucellar embryo is no. And aileron cell is not. So yes, this is all about today's class, and artificial hybridization. We are going to continue from the Tuesday, okay? Because if we start, we left with only 20 minutes. We cannot complete that in hurry burry. Yes. So any doubts? I'm launching a teacher NPS. So tomorrow you guys are having biology test, no? Go on, read carefully. Ah, yes, Jeevan. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Anuradha. Bye, Harsha. Thank you, Sridevika. Ah, yes, Jeevan. Sure, sure, sure. I'll say. Thank you, Likit. Yes. Yes, Kavya. Why? Yeah, Pratiksha. Thank you. Why you are asking that, Kavya? Yeah. Okay. Yes, tomorrow you guys are having exam, sorry, test. Read and write well. The first test in the 12th, okay? Yeah, thank you, Bhagya. Thank you, Kavya. Bye. Thank you, Rushita. Oh, thank you, Ashwin and Gopika. Bye. Yeah, Swati, Soumya. Bye. Okay, I'm ending the poll and I'm ending the class too. Thank you, Saujanya.